really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard, which is what, seriously speaking, is all about.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Seriously Speaking. Today we shall be talking about education. You can never say too much about this all-important aspect of our lives because all of us are where we are today because somebody taught us. Last year, we had talked about this issue a little bit and focused a lot on the issue of infrastructure and the general fact that education, the standards were falling, but then people are doing things to make it better. One of the people that was guest on that show had told me about the initiative she was taking to ensure that she put in her own little bit and make teaching be a fun subject or a fun profession that people would like to take up. So on the show today, I'm introducing a new initiative which everybody can benefit from because not only those who become teachers, but those who are taught. You never know. You just might become one of them. We'll be back in a short while with this international initiative that is coming home to Nigeria this 2016. We'll be back. Welcome back. Now, Nike de Souza was on this show last year with other people, this time again with other people, but then Nike is an HR expert who for the past 2 years has been focused on trying to get people to talk about education. My phones are bombarded daily with pictures of children who can't afford to go to school, why children must be in school. It's a pleasure to have you, Nike.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you.
Yes, I'm
really
happy.
Nice, because, you know, those phone messages is one of them that made me invite you again today. You just send these messages, images of children in dump sites, why are they not in school, and things like that. You are an HR person, you're a consultant, you've done this, I mean, that's where your daily bread comes from. What's this focus on education? And why?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here again. There's a big link between HR, human resources, and education.
Oh.
I started this journey when I was doing a lot of graduate recruitment work, trying to find work for young graduates. And I realized that the more I interviewed young graduates, the more I realized that we were missing something. And skills issues, were they ready for the workforce? Issues as basic as literacy, English, maths. And then I decided it was time to stop talking and joining everybody complaining about how our graduates are not employable. And then I thought, okay, let's go back to where the problem really started. And it did start much earlier than that because the university graduates are people that you can only get out what you put in. And so I wanted to go back. And so decided that I was going to invest my time.
So what did you do personally to do that? Where was the first place you started from? Started to research or looking for organizations or looking for people who thought like you?
I started to volunteer, actually.
Oh, really?
I realized that through church and through other projects, meeting other passionate people, that there was just so much out there. So I started by going into schools and giving my time, tutoring, building classroom blocks, building toilets, labs. And then I suddenly realized years later that it's not only about the infrastructure. We have to worry about the children and the students in the classroom and also the teachers that are teaching them. We tend to forget the human capital side of education. We focus a lot on the buildings and the tools, but we really don't focus on the individuals as well.
What's the most painful thing about education in Nigeria today to you?
For me, it's really the Nigerian child.
Yeah, I see most of the pictures are always about kids.
You see children that, if they were just in the right environment, they were taught properly, they had access to information or knowledge, and they had access to role models that can showcase to them what it's like to be brilliant. And so they have people to look up to. So their own potentials can be fulfilled. I think that's what it is. You just see young people that if only they had that opportunity. And that's the opportunity we're trying to give them now.
Exactly, that's the opportunity also. So it's my time to invite, I'll get into the studio after we take a short break, the representative who's actually from Zimbabwe, but he's African too, and he understands what we're talking about here. He'll be here in a short while. Yes, welcome back. I'm still in the studios with Nike, but to make sure that we get the feel of who Gus is, I've decided to invite him and get him to walk into the studio. Nike, is that okay? You know, I mean, let's welcome you to Africa. So, Gus, come on in. Welcome you to Lagos, Nigeria, in our style. Okay, Cabo. Say oh.
Oh.
Hi.
Thank you.
Please sit down.
Thank
It's
you
nice
very
to
much.
have you. I would like you to sound your surname for Mandigora.
Almost. Mandigora.
Mandigora.
Yes, Mandigora.
And you're from Zimbabwe.
Yes,
What I
I'm
find
Zimbabwe.
interesting chatting with you earlier was you told me that it was only after you had gone to school that you realized how privileged you were to have had great education in Zimbabwe, you know. So is education in Zimbabwe as good as it was when you were there?
I haven't been living in Zimbabwe for quite a long time, but at the time when I was there, the education system was such that anybody could get a really good education. And that was so widespread that none of us appreciated it at the time. It's only when we left the country that we realized we were really quite privileged, because it didn't matter whether you were poor or you were rich, whether you were well connected or not. We just found that outside Zimbabwe, our skills were very well respected and were getting us results in our professions and in our studies.
So I guess the first place you saw that whole, before your eyes was in South Africa itself.
Yes, that is the first place where we noticed it, because there were so many university faculties and universities in general where there was a trend of Zimbabwean students doing much better than most of the other students. And that was also where we saw the effects of education inequity, because in South Africa itself, it turned out that a lot of the wealthier students were getting really good marks, and the students from the poorer communities were the ones that were struggling. And that's when you first realize that people's access to resources could actually really determine their trajectory once they get to higher education. And that was a really, really tough and jarring lesson to see.
But you were working in policy and strategy before you also joined Teach for All. What was the attraction for you? Did you go searching for Teach for All or what?
I heard about Teach for All almost by accident. I stumbled upon it. And when I started doing more research and understanding how the other partners worked, I realized that this problem of educational inequity is actually a global problem. I had no idea that a country as developed as the USA could have massive education inequities. I had no idea that the same thing was true in the UK. And then I also saw in lots of other countries, China, Nepal, India, Australia, New Zealand, I mean, I can name 39 countries. I saw that this was actually a big and growing problem, and that other people had sort of put their hand up to try and address it.
Are these problems not worse in Africa, though? Or Africa is not, because Africa, is our problem inequity or access? Maybe Nike should address that. What do you think? Is it inequity or access, or both?
It's a combination. Access is an issue. It is a major issue. I mean, we're throwing around figures like over 10 million children in Nigeria don't have access to education. That is the size of a country in Europe. So that access is a major issue. But the fact that also we have a huge disparity to the quality of education that our children get when at different classes. The low-income, underprivileged children don't have access to the same quality education as somebody who is middle class or upper class. And the disparity is it's large. So it is an issue. Even here, it is a major issue.
It took you almost 2 years to get Gus to come and say, okay, now maybe. Why did it take so long, Gus? I mean, well, these are committed people, came to the Teach for All. We want to be part of it. It means there are processes before you can tee into the organization, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the background is that these 39 organizations globally who are doing this kind of work are bound by certain unifying principles. And because it's a loose network, it is so important that these unifying principles are the same across. Because while we talk about the importance of adapting to every single country and context, you need to be doing broadly similar things. And that's what we've been working on with a really dedicated and passionate team in Teach for Nigeria to help ensure that they're bound by all these common threads that allow the 39 organizations to learn from each other.
Now, you addressed that question. After examining the Nigerian situation, is access, if you're going to pick access or equity, which weighs stronger?
So this is the interesting part about the network. Within Teach for All, we don't actually come to a country and prescribe and say you must choose this over the other. It is a really complicated process of researching what the problem looks like in your context and coming up with a local solution that still ties in with the key components of what the other 39 organizations are doing. So I wouldn't come in and make that choice. But we do need to be seeing that Teach for Nigeria is addressing the same kinds of issues as the rest of the network. So you're talking about taking your top young leaders in a country. You're talking about channeling their energy and talent into the education sector. You're talking about their first formative career experience being in a classroom where they're held responsible for the outcomes of the students they teach.
I must thank you for being on the show. I appreciate this. And as we round up, Teach for, we're going to scroll how you can reach them. By the time Teach Nigeria, my only statement is, let's show Gus that in Nigeria, we do it differently, right? Thank you for watching the show. And we're not trying to make people teachers. We just want them to realize that giving back is all about teaching the most in need and also taking away leadership qualities that will benefit you in the short term and the nation in the long run. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.